Never underestimate a quiet sister who works in real estate. My brother Marcus learned this lesson the hard way when he tried to steal our family home, not realizing I'd been planning something much bigger all along. I'm Julia Walker, 34 years old, and this is the story of how my brother's greed led me to buy not just our family home, but every house on Maple Avenue. Growing up on Maple Avenue was like living in a storybook. Our parents had bought the old Victorian at number 23 before either of us were born, pouring their hearts into restoring it to its former glory. Mom would always say that houses have souls, and if you listen carefully, they'll tell you their stories. Marcus never listened. He was too busy dreaming about how much the property would be worth once the neighborhood improved. Even as kids, he'd talk about selling the house and building luxury condos. Mom would just shake her head and say, "Some things are worth more than money." I followed in Mom's footsteps, becoming a real estate agent but specializing in historic properties. Marcus went into finance, always chasing the next big deal. We were different that way. I saw homes where he saw dollar signs. When Mom and Dad retired to Florida 3 years ago, they left the house to both of us, with the understanding that we'd preserve it. "This house has been in our family for 30 years, Dad said. "Take care of it, and it'll take care of you." For a while, things were fine. I lived in the house, maintaining it and even doing some restoration work, while Marcus lived in his downtown condo. He'd stop by occasionally, usually to complain about how I was wasting the property's potential. "We could sell this place for millions if you'd just let me develop it," he'd say, eyeing the original woodwork like it was kindling. "This whole street is ripe for redevelopment." What Marcus didn't know was that I'd been thinking about the street too, but in a very different way. Working in real estate, I'd noticed a troubling pattern. Developers were buying up historic homes in the area, tearing them down, and replacing them with cheaply built luxury condos that sat half-empty. Maple Avenue was one of the last intact historic streets in the city. Every house had a story, from old Mrs. Henderson's Queen and at number 15 where she'd raised 3 generations of her family, to the Craftsman Bungalow at number 31 where the local art teacher gave free lessons to neighborhood kids. I started making plans, quietly approaching homeowners about their future intentions. Many were worried about developers pressuring them to sell. I began connecting them with historic preservation resources, helping them understand their options. Then Mom had her stroke. It wasn't severe, but it meant expensive medical bills. Dad called, worried about how they'd manage. Before I could even suggest a solution, Marcus swooped in with his brilliant idea. "We'll sell the house," he announced during a family video call. "It's the perfect time, property values are sky high." "Absolutely not," I said firmly. "Mom and Dad trusted us to preserve it. They trusted us to take care of it," Marcus countered. "And right now, taking care of it means selling it to help them. Unless you've got a better idea?" I did have a better idea. I'd been saving for years, living modestly and investing carefully. "I'll buy out your half," I offered. "You'll get market value, and the house stays in the family." Marcus laughed. "Why would I sell to you when I've got developers offering triple the market rate?" That's when I realized he'd already been talking to developers. My own brother had been planning to sell our family home out from under me. I tried reasoning with him. I showed him the historic preservation grants I'd found, the tax benefits of maintaining the property's historic status, but Marcus had dollar signs in his eyes and wouldn't listen. Then came the morning I returned from visiting Mom and Dad in Florida to find the locks changed on our family home. Marcus was waiting in the driveway, smirking. "Sorry, sis, I bought out Mom and Dad's interest while you were gone. The house is mine now, and these developers don't want any complications with their plans." "You can't do this," I protested. "We co-own the house." "Check again," he said, waving a stack of papers. "Mom and Dad signed over their rights to me. I've already filed the paperwork. It's all mine now." I stood there, staring at our family home, the porch where we'd spent summer evenings, the window seat where I used to read, the garden Mom had lovingly tended. Marcus had manipulated our parents when they were vulnerable, all for a quick profit. Get your stuff out by the end of the week, he called over his shoulder as he left. The demolition crew starts next month. What Marcus didn't know was that while he'd been plotting to sell our family home, I'd been working on something much bigger. Remember those conversations I'd been having with the neighbors? Over the past year, I'd been quietly helping them set up a neighborhood historical preservation association. We'd secured grants, arranged favorable financing, and created a comprehensive plan to protect the entire street. And I'd done something else too, something I'd been planning for months before Marcus showed his true colors. I'd bought options on every house on Maple Avenue. Working in real estate has its advantages. I knew which homeowners were thinking of selling, who needed help with repairs, who was worried about developers. One by one, I'd approached them with a simple proposition. I'd give them the market rate for an option to buy their homes, with the guarantee that the houses would be preserved, not demolished. Most of them jumped at the chance. They loved their homes and wanted to see them protected. The options were structured so that I'd only need to exercise them if there was a credible threat to the street's historic character. Like, say, a developer trying to tear down our family home to build condos. The moment Marcus changed those locks, I put my plan into action. I exercised the options, using a combination of my savings, historic preservation grants, and a consortium of investors who shared my vision for protecting historic neighborhoods. Within a week, I owned every house on Maple Avenue, all 15 of them. Then I waited. Marcus spent the next few weeks strutting around, bragging to anyone who would listen about the luxury condos that would soon replace our family home. He even hosted a meeting for potential investors right there on our front porch. That's when I made my move. I arranged a neighborhood meeting at old Mrs. Henderson's house, the biggest one on the street. I made sure Marcus got an invitation, though I knew he'd only come to gloat about his development plans. The meeting room was packed when he arrived. All the neighbors were there, along with representatives from the Historical Society and several real estate developers who'd been pressuring people to sell. Marcus stood up, waving his ownership papers. As the new owner of number 23, I think it's time this street entered the modern era. My development group has plans that will increase property values for everyone. Actually, I interrupted, standing up, I don't think those plans will work. This doesn't concern you anymore, Marcus snapped. You don't even live here now. Oh, but it does concern me, I smiled. You see, as the owner of every other house on Maple Avenue, I have some thoughts about the neighborhood's future. The room went silent. Marcus's face went from smug to confused to shocked in the span of about 3 seconds. What do you mean, owner? He stammered. I nodded to my lawyer, who started passing out packets to everyone in the room. These documents show the deeds for all 15 properties on Maple Avenue, excluding number 23. They were purchased last week by the Maple Avenue Historical Trust, of which I am the sole trustee. Marcus grabbed a packet, flipping through it frantically. This is impossible. You can't afford this. Actually, I can, I said calmly. It turns out that when you live modestly, invest wisely, and have a deep understanding of real estate markets and historic preservation grants, you can accomplish quite a lot. And when you treat people with respect instead of seeing them as obstacles to profit, they're often happy to work with you. One of the developers Marcus had been working with stood up. This changes nothing. We'll still build on number 23. One holdout won't stop progress. I smiled again. You might want to read the last page of that packet. The entire street has been designated as a historic district. Any new construction must conform to strict preservation guidelines. Good luck fitting luxury condos into those parameters. Marcus slumped in his chair, his development dreams crumbling before his eyes. You planned this, he accused. You knew I was going to buy the house. No, I corrected him. I planned this because I loved this street and wanted to protect it. Your betrayal just moved up my timeline a bit. The meeting continued, but Marcus didn't stay to hear about our plans for restoration and community development. He stormed out, slamming the door hard enough to rattle Mrs. Henderson's antique chandelier. Over the next few months, an interesting thing happened. Marcus tried everything to get his development approved: bribes, legal challenges, even attempting to have the historic designation overturned. Nothing worked. Meanwhile, I implemented the plans I'd been developing all along. We started a community land trust to ensure long-term affordability. We established a fund for home repairs and restoration. We even created a program to help first-time homebuyers purchase and maintain historic properties. The house at number 23, our family home, sat empty. Marcus couldn't develop it, but his pride wouldn't let him sell it back to me either. He was stuck paying property taxes and maintenance costs on a house he couldn't use or develop. Then Mom and Dad found out what he'd done. "You manipulated us when we were worried about medical bills?" Mom's voice could have frozen fire. "You used our concern for our health care to steal your sister's home?" Dad was even more direct. "Fix this, Marcus. Fix it now." 2 days later, Marcus's lawyer contacted me. He was willing to sell the house at cost, no profit. I bought it. Of course, it needed some work after sitting empty, but that was okay. Houses have souls, Mom always said, and this one just needed some love to come back to life. Today, Maple Avenue is thriving. The historic district designation attracted heritage tourism. Small businesses opened in some of the converted carriage houses. Property values have actually increased more than they would have with Marcus's condo development. It turns out people will pay a premium to live in a preserved historic neighborhood. Marcus? He's still in real estate development, but his reputation took a hit when the story got out. Turns out, trying to steal your sister's house and demolish a historic neighborhood doesn't play well in the local business community. Mom recovered from her stroke, and she and Dad moved back to the area, into the Craftsman bungalow at number 31. As it happens, the art teacher who lived there was ready to retire, and she loved the idea of the house going to someone who would appreciate its history. Last week, I was sitting on my front porch, the same porch where Marcus had once bragged about his development plans, when a young couple walked by with their realtor. They were looking at the house at number 27, which one of our original neighbors had decided to sell. "This street is amazing," I overheard the woman say. "It's like stepping back in time, but in a good way. How did it survive when so many other historic neighborhoods were developed?" The realtor smiled. "That's quite a story, actually. It all started with a sister who loved her family home. I didn't stay to hear the rest. I had work to do. The Historical Society was meeting to discuss restoration grants for the next year, and I needed to review the applications. But as I walked inside, I patted the old newel post at the bottom of the stairs, the one Marcus had wanted to tear out because it wasn't modern enough. Mom was right, houses do have souls, and sometimes, if you listen carefully, they don't just tell you their stories. They help you write new ones. Marcus still drives by occasionally, looking at what could have been his big development project. Last month, Maple Avenue was featured in a national magazine's Best Preserved Historic Streets in America article. I made sure to send him a copy. The neighborhood has become exactly what I hoped it would be: a living museum of architectural history, but also a vibrant community where families can grow and create their own stories. Every house has its own character, its own voice, its own contribution to the street's harmony. And our family home? It's still here, still standing proud at number 23, Maple Avenue. The porch still welcomes visitors on summer evenings. The window seat still catches the morning sun just right for reading. And Mom's garden? Well, let's just say the roses have never bloomed better. Some things really are worth more than money. Marcus never understood that, but that's okay. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even, it's about preserving what matters, protecting what's precious, and proving that there's more than one way to measure success. Besides, owning an entire street isn't bad either.